Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming to the We Go podcast YouTube, joining us over here and watching this video. Still working on a proper intro, but you know what? May just intro every video different as I see fit. So, y'all may have noticed that I'm making sure that I upload the podcast episodes. If you don't know, there is a What Else Is Going On podcast available where all of your podcasts can be found: Apple, Spotify. If you go to my Instagram page at WeGo, WEIGO podcast, that stands for What Else Is Going On. If you click the link in the bio, whatever type of phone you have, it'll take you where you can listen to the podcast. Everybody doesn't have Apple. So if you have Android, it'll take you to a place where you can listen on Android, whatever. If you got crickets, but it'll take you wherever. So I've been making sure to upload the YouTube videos for that. Y'all know I've said I want to come to y'all all the time, daily, with my thoughts, feelings on things that we're seeing in the media, things that could be happening in my life, what have you. And still have not done that. So today I said, you know what? I said I was going to take a break from picking up some passengers and said, come on home, take a break. You know, sometimes you feel like you just got to reset. Like for me, if I start feeling, I don't know what the feeling is called, but I was driving today and I had picked up some passengers, dropped them off, ran into the mall because no, I'm not finished Christmas shopping. It's not a whole lot, but it's just like a few things. But I just felt like I needed to start over. So I was like, I'm gonna go home, rewash my face, redo my bun, take a deep breath, go back out, pick up some more passengers, work out, come home, blah, 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 blah. But I ended up coming home and was like, I'm not gonna go back. I just didn't feel it. I am feeling tired in my body. I did have a 5-hour energy drink like around 10:30. So I'm like, can I have a Red Bull? Because right now it's 3:53. So that was a while ago. But I said, I'm not going to go back out. You know, we spend so much time hustling and doing this and doing that and making the money. And I was like, I'm not devoting enough attention to the things that really matter creatively, even the podcast, sending out requests for different interviews, because for me, that it takes a while because I don't like to just send a blind pitch like, hey, can this person come on the podcast? I like to give a detailed reason for why I want the particular person to be on the podcast, bullet points, because when you're dealing with agents and either agents or what do they call it, publicists, they have 1,000 things to do. So they may see a request and be like, nah, or they may see it and see that I've attached some things and be like, oh, they haven't talked about it. Or, oh, some of these Black housewives haven't gone on Black platforms to talk about, I don't know, colorism and the things that we see on the show. Maybe it would be a good idea. So they'll say yes. So for me, because of that, because I really like to do my research, I try to watch/listen to other interviews people have done. That way I'm not asking the same question. Or if I am, I'm building off of a question they've already answered. So I haven't been devoting enough time to that. I have a list of people that I want to reach out to. So I said, get off the road and devote some time to this. Money will be there. And I know we got bills, got to pay. We got this, we got that. Y'all, I got 3 children. One is 26, one is 21, one is 19, 2 kids in college. Y'all. So, but I was like, you know what? I truly believe that if I put as much energy into my content creating as I want it to be, I put the energy in as if I was already getting what I want to get from it financially, because let's talk about it. For me, I'll speak for me as a content creator. I just love doing content around I've always loved having conversations and going a little bit deeper with people. I always feel like the more you know about a person, the more it tells you about a person, whether it's their past or what have you, because then it kind of shows you, oh, now I see why this person does X, Y, and Z. And then just having conversations around what's happening in the world today. That's a good way for me. I learn a lot that way. So there's something about conversation I love. And I truly believe that if I operate as if I'm already getting financially what I want, I'll get there. Oh, what I was going to say is ask, I was going to say ask content creators, but for me, while I love doing it, absolutely would love to do this all day long. I absolutely also want to take care of myself on it all day long. I'm blessed that I have a partner, a husband who is 1000% supportive and on board and has told me numerous times, I want you to do what makes you happy. So I haven't worked corporate since 2011. He has, so that I can do the different gig, if you will. It's allowed me the freedom to be able to do that. So sometimes I have to remind myself, stop complaining when a passenger gets in, when you have two passengers and you pick them up in a parking lot or in their driveway and both want to get in on the same side of the door. Why are you scooting over my seat? Walk around to the other door. You scooting, you hitting my console all with your feet. If you couldn't tell, that's my number. That irritates me. I can see if we're on a busy road and traffic coming. Of course, I don't want anybody to get in on that side. But again, if we're in a parking lot, if I've pulled into a parking space or I'm in your driveway, why are you two big grown adults both sliding your behind across my back seat? Walk around to the other side, one of you. Okay. Enough of that for now. That just irritates me. But so I am down here on YouTube just because I've had some things on my mind with Potomac, Married to Medicine. And then I saw something interesting that Drew Sidora said and was like, So let's get into her first. Let's get her kind of out of the way, but not out of the way. So we know that there's been talk about the Real Housewives of Atlanta, the reboot. If there's going to be a reboot, I have said before, Atlanta was always the queen of my heart. That's what got me into the Bravo franchise. It was like, oh, there's aunties, there's cousins. Like I've recognized people in some of these women, more so with how quick they were, how fast they are, how funny they're. When I say fast, I mean quick on their feet with the comebacks. I mean, Black women are magical. So I was very much like no reboot, meaning like the complete cast. And then when I went to BravoCon and watched that panel, that I said, if you have to reboot it, because to me there was no chemistry. It was just so lackluster, especially if you had been at the Potomac panel and even the Miami panel. So we know that they're doing a reboot. And I do remember watching DJ Richie Sky. Shout out to my boo, DJ Richie Sky. Some months back, he had watched Candy's, and this was when the reboot talk was happening and people were speculating if there was going to be a reboot. He had watched Candy's at one of Candy's Amazon Lives, and he said that on that Amazon Live, she said they had been told that there could be a possible reboot. So the ladies know this. So we've all heard the conversation. And I just happened to come across this article on Madame Noir that I thought was interesting. And a part of it made me wonder if it was Drew getting ahead of the story. We all remember when there was Drew Sidora and Sonia Richards-Ross take RHOA out of their bio. Sonia put hers back in. Then I heard allegedly she took it back out. I don't know. And Drew said she never had one. She never had RHOA in her bio to begin with. So go baste your turkeys, whatever. She just did. So on Madame Noir, there was an article. And again, I just wondered if this was Drew getting ahead of the story. So the headlines say, RHOA, Drew Sidora ain't coming back unless changes are made to the show's casting. She says the environment needs to be inviting. You know what's interesting? I just noticed this because I like to read the articles with y'all if I'm doing an article on here. I did skim it just to make sure I knew where it started and where it ended. But I just saw that it says former Housewives of Atlanta star Drew Sidora provided the terms for her prospective return to the franchise in a radio interview. In a clip posted on Instagram by news personality Antoine Edwards, Drew commented on how the show's lack of support and toxic environment overwhelmed her. And for her to return, changes would need to be implemented. She said, I've been enjoying this time. I needed a break. So I'm actually happy that they had to figure some things out. Then the shade they have in here, the That's So Raven actress doesn't know when she'll return, but didn't knock the idea. I have talked with some of my execs there, and I'm like, we'll see where we land um, before giving her terms and conditions. I feel the environment needs to be inviting. The environment needs to be friendly for me. I didn't really feel like I had that support, that sisterhood. I just feel like as women, say what you want. We throw our shade. We have our moments of disagreement, as all women do. But when you're going through something, whether it's health wise or relationship wise, I just feel like we've watched in certain seasons women support and corral around you because you don't know everything. Sorry, my article kept jumping. Um, but to have that moment of sisterhood, that's what makes us so beautiful and powerful when we come together. Drew felt certain moments from the show, like her interactions and conversations with the other women, were misinterpreted by the public. It was hard because I have to defend these women and then defend myself against my husband too. Like that was a lot. And to feel like they all linked up in some, we gonna link up, I just didn't feel good at all. And then she said, that doesn't really sit well with me to walk back into that environment, especially with everything I have going on. It has to be a nice little shake-up situation, be some different faces at the table that are going to be a little bit more real and a little more genuine and not be afraid to be themselves. I don't know. I feel like it maybe was her trying to get ahead of the story, because the article started out former housewife, but then she talks about, it says uh, she doesn't know when she'll return, but didn't knock the idea. And then that's when she got into talking to her exec. So I don't know. I just feel like maybe she hasn't been invited back, or maybe she was invited back in a friend of role. I don't know. I do feel like if Atlanta returns, I would want her to return because she does have something going on. Now I'm going to say, or I'm going to ask, is she really divorcing Ralph? Or was the announcement made and all of that done with anticipation of getting another season? I don't know. I just thought that was really interesting. But we shall see. We shall see. We shall see if she returns. I'm wondering if she returns, will Ralph, well, I don't know. They're not divorced. He's still living there. They're still living together. So who knows? I don't know. But we shall see. I do want Bravo to take the time they need to get the right group of women with some chemistry and some sort of history, and not feel like it's, I don't know, not feel like they're just coming to work to do a job. You know, it's just, I can't even describe it. To me, something was missing, like I said, from that panel. And I don't know. But we shall see. Who would y'all want them to keep if you had to pick from the women that are currently on the cast? I don't know. Y'all might hear a little bit of a sound. Sounds like music. Child, that's my dryer because I decided to do some washing while I was home and not out in them streets. All right. So we talked about that. Let's get into, I'm going to go up north and get into the Real Housewives of Potomac. Now, look, Potomac used to be one of my favorite shows. There's a lot of discourse online about the cast being divided, about half the cast not liking this person, half the cast not liking this person. The Twitter streets, because I refuse to say, that's an X, in case y'all didn't know. The Twitter streets are divided. Some are saying it's colorism. Some saying, no, people just don't like Wendy and Candace. Whatever it is, you want to think, so be it. I do feel like people should step back from the people that are their personal faves and look at the situation. I mean, really look and lay down facts and what we have seen and try to draw a conclusion. Listen, everybody, I think, has some bias to a degree, right? Even if your bias could include, okay, this is my fave, I'm gonna tell the truth about them, but you're not keeping your foot on their neck, but you're keeping your foot on the neck of the other person that you don't care for on the show. So everybody has some biases. I get that. Michael Darby's wife, been a no for me since season 1, episode 1, whatever first episode she's in. Never, ever have I cared for her. But I do like the new haircut in the confessional when we saw the mid-season trailer and the finger waves. I think that's what they are, the finger waves. I liked that. But this trip here that she planned, when I tell y'all, Montgomery County, which is the county that Potomac is in, I live in Maryland, okay? Montgomery County is one of the richest counties in the U.S. However, we do know that the ladies aren't living in Potomac. I think Nneka might live in Potomac now, and I know Monique lived in Potomac. Karen lived in Potomac, went to Great Falls, which is actually, I believe, also one of the richest, and then came back to Maryland. I don't know if Karen is in Potomac proper or not, but we didn't necessarily look at Potomac for luxury, right? For me, I like seeing Black women on the screen in a Housewives show, right? And I used to attend Miss Bryant's ex-husband's church. Anyway, I'm from Jersey, so I didn't know anything about him, hadn't heard anything, moved to Maryland, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, so we didn't look to them for luxury, but I'm going to tell y'all, outside of everything else, outside of me watching Nneka say she's not using Wendy for clout, and then in every episode, her having a conversation with people other than Wendy about Wendy, when she could have just met with Wendy, which I believe is what she's saying now online. Me watching that, not being annoyed with that, me watching Giselle trying to ice out Candace by not saying her name, and then having the nerve to say it was for the safety of her children. We can get into it, girl. That's a whole lot. When she put the safety of Chris's family at risk. His teachers, I believe he said, were emailing him when she said what she said. Outside of all of that, making me not interested in Potomac, watching them go to that bingo, I feel like, y'all, that was almost the last straw for me. I am so serious. Watching chickens poop on a bingo card, and if they pooped on your number, you get to, do whatever. That's the game. Absolutely disgusting. Even now, me not being a housewife, if my friends were like, girl, let's go. I wear gym clothes most days, right? So when I do, and I love bags and shoes, I collect them. I love all different bags, all different shoes. I'm a clothes person too, but I really, not that I like my clothes to be plain, because I have some things, but for me, I'm more into making the outfit by my shoes, my bag, and if I'm also a lip gloss fanatic. I don't care if the lip gloss is pink and then I need like a half a shade, like I have a half a shade darker, because some of them look alike, but I know they're different. So for me, lipstick, you know how shoes complete an outfit? Lip gloss are the shoes to my face. Shout out to, I have a podcast listener who made me a beautiful ornament that says lip gloss are the shoes to my face. So I love putting on clothes. I say all that to say I love when me and the hubby is going out, when I'm going out with my girls, whatever. I love getting dressed, right? And going somewhere cute. I don't know if y'all just heard a door shut or not, but my son tiptoed up the steps and then tiptoed back out. So y'all might hear all that. So, and y'all might hear his voice. This one won't be edited because see, Breezy is not here right now. So I'm just going to record and put it up. But anyway, so I would have been pissed had I did a bun, blew out a bob, parted in the middle, whatever, put on whether it be cute jeans, pants, top, dress, whatever, put on my shoes, selected my bag, put on the lip gloss of my choosing, just a little bit of MAC lip gloss, some blush, only to end up at a place where chickens are running around and poop. I can't even order chicken tenders now because I'm sick. Like, what new level of low for a housewives outing? I would have liked to see more of the city of Austin. What does that look like? Because, we watch these shows and sometimes you may want like, oh, I'm looking for a place to go. So I'm going to go to Texas and check out this spot, or the people that could be in Texas within a driving distance, or even in Austin. Maybe they hadn't heard of certain places and they may go. The women film in Maryland. And there are certain restaurants that they went to that I'm like, oh, I didn't even realize that was there. Maybe I'll go check it out. I don't live that far from Bar One, PETA. I don't as a matter of fact, my husband with his job, he had to go in and do some work in there or inspect something or something in there or whatever. So, but yeah, so I was horrified and disgusted. And then like painting their vagina, like, girl, come on. I just think, like, what are we doing? Is Michael's wife doing this for moments on the show? I just think it's so just, even Orange County wouldn't go that low. Chicken poop bingo. I'm disgusted. And whether we can all agree or not on the app, on YouTube, on Instagram, in personal conversations, whether it's colorism or not, whether NECA's using Wendy for clout or not, whether Wendy's mom said what they said she said, what we should all be able to agree on is how appalling that outing was. I'm disgusted. Let's move on to Married to Medicine. I've been a Married to Medicine viewer since day one, episode 1. Have not missed an episode. I don't remember all the episodes. Sometimes people have to jog your memory. I have been a watcher. I did watch part 1 and part 2 of Carlos's interview with Quad. She apologized in part 2. A part of me wonders, and I'm not going to lie, I'm just going to be honest. A part of me wondered if she did it because she wants to be back on the show for her check. I mean, it is what it is, If she ever apologized to Toya like that in person, I believed it would have been received. I would hope that it would have been received well if she had. So a part of me wondered if that was the reason, right? Or was it hindsight is 2020? Like, dang, I probably should have apologized sooner. I don't know. A lot of you mentioned the smoke detector. I used to work at this alarm company. I worked there for 7 years, and there was nothing worse than getting a phone call from a customer screaming and hollering because they couldn't shut their alarm up, the beeping, because they didn't know how to change the batteries or they didn't know what the beeping was or what have you. Insane. I remember there was a customer who did not change the batteries. There were records of them calling in. It was their smoke detector, beeping, beeping, beeping. They were told, hey, batteries. And then they had a fire. And the smoke alarm was dead. So, and I've had that happen. I have done an interview. I wasn't doing it on YouTube back then, but if you listened, you would hear it. But yeah, so I can't imagine being in the house with that. Like, I saw comments where people were saying they went and changed all the batteries in their smoke detector, which reminds me, I have to change the one in my room because it's not beeping. We took it down and it needs to go back up. But anyway, so yeah, Quad, she did apologize. I don't know. I guess we'll see where she lands, where this all ends up. Dr. Heavenly and Carlos, their live going back and forth was a lot. When I tell you my butt cheeks were like this in a knot because they were getting each other, boom, boom, just like a back and forth. It was interesting to watch. I want to get into Dr. Jackie. By now, we've all pretty much seen the resurfaced clip from, I believe she said 3 years ago, where she's saying, Black women, basically, we need to be serious, right? We don't need to be, no, I'm sorry, Black women, we're dramatic in pregnancy. And I saw a lot of I went to read the comments because I do that just to see, what are other people thinking or what have you. And I saw quite a few comments saying Black women are her demographic. So she's probably speaking to her experience as a physician. And I'm going to say this, even if that is the case, there is a way to say things. And I'll never forget Tisha on Bell Collective was having a conversation with Latrice. And she said she asked herself 3 questions. Do I need to say this? Or does this need to be said? Is this the time to say, and should it be said by me? I want to add a 4th. And then if I'm going to say it, how do I say this? Because your audience isn't just Black women. And even if it was, it still wasn't a cool thing to say. But for me, watching a Black physician on TV, you're watching his Instagram live, you say this, Clip is circulating. There's non-Black doctors that feel the same way and feel justified now in the things that they've said. I've been in the room with someone, a family member of mine, where she was treated very differently. And I know this for a fact because of the color of her skin. And then when she was called on it, because I couldn't just not say anything, when she was called on it, it was like, well, other races handle their pain differently. Because it was my cousin, because she wasn't screaming and I guess acting up. They didn't believe she was in pain. My cousin she was cooking and a grease fire and it splashed on her. She had the skin on her legs, falling off the skin on her hands, peeling off. She had to be airlifted to the hospital. The skin burned off of her hands. They were wrapped in gauze. And the doctor is saying because she wasn't screaming, other races handle their pain differently. So basically, we don't know. Mind you, my cousin had told them she was in pain, woke up crying tears, not screaming, but trying to hit the button for the nurse because they were, her hands were gauzed up. They had to take skin from her thigh to put on her hands. As a matter of fact, when she woke up like that, she didn't buzz. She couldn't. There was a patient down when she was first admitted. She was put in this room, and there was another girl in there, a white girl. And they moved my cousin up. She came up to visit my cousin from the floor that she was on, saw my cousin crying, went to the nurse's desk and was like, y'all need to give her medicine, da 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 da. And then the nurses got up. So I've witnessed it, and we had a very much a back and forth, and I was recording. She didn't know, but I knew. So, yeah. When it comes to Dr. Jackie talking about Black women and maternal health, people are saying, oh, you just can't throw her away. She doesn't need to be canceled. Nobody's saying that. It's about taking accountability for what you said. And it's about the irony of you saying Black women need to advocate for themselves. We need to speak up. We need to make sure our voices are heard when it comes to us because we have a higher mortality rate in childbirth than anybody else, right? Only for you to turn around and say, we're more dramatic. If we see you 25 times and nothing's wrong, it's hard for them to take your pain seriously. She's saying that it was taken out of context. What other context was it taken in? And let me go back to what I was saying before about the comments. People are saying that's her experience because of her mainly seeing Black patients. So then I would think you would be even more careful with your words. There's a way to say everything. I just feel like, and then there were people saying they would rather have a doctor that they don't have to have a warm and fuzzy bedside manner. They just need to get the job done. Nobody's saying she needs to have a warm, fuzzy bedside manner, but you do need to listen to your patients when they're talking to you, when they're expressing to you how you felt. I remember I was pregnant with my youngest. My youngest is 19 now. I'll never forget this. Pregnant with my youngest. And I never suffered from headaches, ever. Like very rare would I get a headache. I had a headache so bad that when I was working at the alarm company and people kept asking me, are you okay? Maybe you need to go home for the day. I didn't realize I was squinting. Like my eyes were, and they actually sent me home. The headache continued. So I went to the emergency room and they straight up told me, and I'm heavily pregnant. And again, I was like, I've never had, and this happened. And I was like, oh my God, like, am I having an aneurysm? Like, I didn't know because I didn't suffer from headaches like that. And my head hurt so bad. Like, it didn't feel like like what a regular headache would feel like. Cause I had regular headaches before, but not, I went into that emergency room and they told me, if you don't have a hole in your head with blood, running from it, you're going to be here all night before you're seen. And I was like, what? That hospital is a prestigious hospital in Maryland too. They do have different locations. In that particular location, it's the same location where my cousin was at a couple years ago for her burn. So, but the hospital's prestigious. Anyway, and I remember asking, well, can I at least take something? They told me I could look it up. So I Googled and took something, went home, laid down, and thank God nothing happened, right? So looking at me, even though my eyes were barely open, I'm squinting, you still wouldn't have known that I was in excruciating pain. And I was scared because I didn't suffer from headaches like that. And I'm pregnant, but I just went home. Looking back now, I probably would have been like, no, somebody's going to see me, or went to a different hospital. But we had actually just moved here. I found out we signed September 6th of 2003 was when we moved to Maryland, and my daughter was born. I found out 2 weeks after we moved that I was pregnant. So I didn't know about the different hospitals in the area, but this particular hospital was prestigious. So that's where I went. That's the emergency room I went to. Again, didn't know at the time, even then, that there was different locations. But I say all that to say that for me, as a Black woman that has had 3 children, as a Black woman that, speaking of my youngest daughter, I was, like I said, I was 24 at the time. Right? Or 20? No, 27. She's 19. I'm 46. So I had got a bill from the hospital. My insurance didn't cover it all. And it was like a big bill. And I was like, oh, they're just going to have to wait. Other things came first, right? And the bill, I guess, was still in the hospital. I mean, it was still in their records. And I went, and it was a white gentleman, a doctor, that my midwife wasn't there for my follow-up. Like, I had a follow-up. And it was after my daughter was born. And it might have been my OBG. It might have been like, you know, your yearly after she was born or whatever. So the hospital bill was about a year old, if that. It wasn't more than that. And I remember going to get my exam. My midwife wasn't going to be there, and I would have had to wait. So I'm like, well, let me just see the other doctor in the practice. And I remember laying on the table, and he's giving me my breast exam. And as he's giving me my breast exam, he's saying, I noticed that you had a hospital bill. You might want to take care of that, because that could affect your credit. And when you go to buy a house, that can affect your interest rate. And I remember him giving me examples and thinking, is he telling all his patients that? And number 2, I feel so uncomfortable. And I made sure I never saw him again after that. Sir, did you even detect if there's any lumps? Thank God there wasn't. But I'm just saying, like, you're telling me about an interest rate and my credit report, and make sure. I don't know. It's just, so seeing Dr. Jackie and saying that, and then her statement, because it was not an apology, her statement. Let's read her statement. I know many of y'all probably heard the statement, but I want to read it anyway. Her statement was, recently a clip from a nearly 2-hour video was taken out of context to make it appear that I somehow take lightly what I have advocated for concerning the devastating problem facing the Black maternal health crisis. It has been my life's work to highlight and attempt to rectify the issues that devastatingly impact Black maternal mothers versus our counterparts. As a physician, I educate my patients every day to be their own best health advocate. As we continue to face medical mistreatment and gaslighting, my intention with the broader conversation was to ensure patients enter their pregnancies armed with information and tools to effectively communicate their needs with their doctors to ensure a positive outcome. The reason I became an OBGYN is because growing up, I saw such a lack of diversity amongst medical professionals and was determined to be a part of the change. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow, I will continue to fight for the lives of Black mothers and babies. What was interesting to me is when she said, recently a clip from a nearly 2-hour video was taken out of context to make it appear that I, comma, somehow, comma, take lightly what I have advocated for concerning the devastating problems facing the Black maternal health crisis. To me, and I'm just going to speak for me, I can't speak for nobody, it was almost like a God complex type feeling I got from that statement. This clip came out as if I, me of all people, and then the rest of the statement, because there was no accountability in the statement, she could have kept it. Clearly, you know that people were offended and affronted by what you said, right? Whether that was your intention or not at the time, whether it translated differently than how it came out. You can address those people. You could have addressed and said, listen, this clip came out, and I see how it could be misconstrued, given the fact that I do advocate for Black women to be their best advocate, their own best advocate. And then explained how she meant that statement. But this is just like, as if I would say something like that when I'm out here doing X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to continue to do X, Y, and Z. You could have kept it. You really could have. This didn't change my opinion on Dr. Jackie. I've never been a patient of hers. I can't speak to that. I will say, watching the show, she's a Black woman advocating for Black women. I can only imagine how patients feel who may struggle with obesity, who may fluctuate in weight like a lot of people do, how they feel going into her office. We've witnessed her call Toya fat. When they went to New Orleans and Toya slid and fell off that bus, she called her fat. I believe that's the time. You can fact check me, but she definitely did. Remember the season when they had, was it a Mrs. pageant or something they had? And there was a woman that was Mrs., I can't think of her title. And Dr. Jackie told her she couldn't be healthy, given basically her physique, her size. So this clip never changed how I felt, didn't change how I felt about Dr. Jackie. What I've seen her do is shame women for their size and try to get these women to conform to what she thinks is a standard of health, her body type. And it just always turned me off. Again, you're a Black woman advocating for other Black women and maternal health and them being healthy. But to shame them, to speak to a woman that you didn't even know, again, I can't think of what her title was. It was Mrs. something, and tell her that she wasn't healthy. Can you imagine being a pregnant woman, gaining weight, and having to see a doctor that clearly I don't know if looks down on is the word, but treats you away based on your weight, to me, or at least has these thoughts? Because again, we watched this doctor call Toya fat. Dr. Jackie just never did it for me. The lemon squeezes and all. So yeah, there's my thoughts on it. It was disappointing. Oh, you know what? In the grand scheme of things, I can use the word disappointment, but because of how I had already viewed Dr. Jackie and felt, it wasn't disappointing, and it wasn't like, oh my God, Dr. Jackie. Not for me, it wasn't. Because we've seen the way she's talked about women's bodies on the show that were not her patients, to be clear. So it didn't surprise me. Also didn't surprise Mariah Huq. Mariah did an IG Live, and she had a lot of things to say about this season of Married to Medicine. And I think she called Dr. Jackie an educated fool. That was funny. But what I want to talk about is just a couple of points from her live and Phaedra. Mariah, she's still with that mouth voice. I loved me some Mariah Huq. She said that she didn't understand Phaedra's connection unless she was representing one of the ladies for malpractice. She did say that Phaedra is good TV and she deserves. So maybe something like Law and Liars. She said this woman was good TV, basically deserves to be on TV, but maybe she should be on something like Law and Liars. Then she said Phaedra was on the Real Housewives of Atlanta in the parking lot doing her law with the criminals in the car. So maybe parking lot lawyers. Mariah, when I tell you, she was the key, she said she just doesn't understand the connection. Then she said, but she is known as the head doctor. Then she also said that when all of that was going on with her on the show and being iced out, that she cried to Dr. Simone and was basically like, this isn't fair, Simone, and asked for help and like wanted somebody to speak up for her. She said that Dr. Simone said the audience likes when we go against you. So she feels like the ladies kind of play to the audience and not their real feelings or what's really going on. So Mariah definitely had a lot to say in that live. It was funny. I miss Mariah. I haven't always been I've always really liked Mariah. I wasn't a Quad fan. I don't dislike her. I just wasn't one. But I didn't like how that went, I would hate to feel like I was being ambushed. I didn't like that at all, the way it was handled with her. I can understand the reasoning and some on both sides, Quads and the other ladies, but I didn't like how what felt like an ambush went down. But it would be great TV if these two ladies made amends behind the scenes in real life and then came back together. That would be good TV. Last thing about Married to Medicine. I did not know this. Did y'all know this? So according to Radar Online, Married to Medicine star Contessa Metcalfe secretly filed for divorce from husband Scott before dismissing it months later. Let's see. Married to Medicine star Dr. Contessa Metcalfe filed for divorce from her husband Scott earlier this year, but decided to call it off before a judge made it official. According to court documents obtained by Radar Online, the Bravo star filed her petition on March 20th, 2023. Contessa said the date of marriage was June 6th, 2006. She said, although the parties presently occupy the same residence, they have resided in a bona fide state of separation since on or before the filing of this complaint for divorce. In her petition, Contessa listed that they shared 3 children. She named the 3 children, and she said the marriage was irretrievably broken with no reasonable hope of reconciliation. Contessa demanded primary physical custody of the children, with parenting time being awarded to Scott. She proposed they share legal custody, which would allow them both to have a say in their children's important life matters. In her filing, Contessa asked the court for temporary and permanent use of the marital residence and child support. Despite her claim there was no hope for reconciliation, Contessa dismissed the case on November 8th before Scott filed a response. On social media, the couple have shown no signs of trouble. The month after Contessa filed, the couple were seen all smiles on family vacation. In October, Scott made multiple posts that featured his wife. A couple of weeks after Contessa dismissed the case in court, the couple were seen next to each other at a holiday party. A week ago, Contessa and Scott both made posts promoting their medical businesses. Back in 2021, Contessa and Scott's marital issues were featured on season 8 of the Bravo show. At the time, her co-star said Contessa had filed for legal separation. So she filed for divorce in March and then withdrew it this past November. I did not know that. Did y'all know that? It's interesting how they said online, on social media, there seemed to be no issues. It always seems that way, right? So a part of me wonders, did she file and was she planning on going back to the show? And then now she's not on the show. Maybe they're working on their marriage. I mean, we did see her and Scott on the episode where Sweet Tea and Dr. Gray got married. We hear Contessa interact with the ladies, but Scott was there also. So it's interesting. I did not know that. Did y'all know? I didn't know. So I am waiting for the rest of Married to Medicine, the next half. It does. I'm not going to lie. It looks really interesting and I'm excited to see it. So y'all, I'm about to get up off of here. I have to watch The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City and The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and I'm going to do those two reviews on here. Make sure you check out What Else Is Going On podcast. I dropped an episode today with Brandon Good. It's really, really good, I think, anyway. I could call me biased, but make sure you check it out. And I will talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.